let's begin with nutrition. You have a very specific kind of take on how women should be eating as they're, inching into their later decades. So what is your thesis on this?
I've been doing a lot of reading and have some colleagues who are in the chronobiological world of research. And what I really want women to understand is their circadian rhythm. So men and women have different circadian rhythms, where women's is a little bit shorter than a man's. And our circadian rhythm is tightly tied to different hormone pulses. So hormones don't rise and fall in a linear fashion. They're pulsed out throughout the day. So it's not only our sex hormones, but it's our appetite hormones, it's our thyroid, everything that is part of the endocrine system. So if we are doing something like holding a fast till 11 or so, and we are eating in a small window because we'll stop eating at 6 because then we want to sleep well, we have effectively phase shift our circadian rhythm, because the most powerful ways that you can change your circadian rhythm is light and dark and food intake. So if you wake up and you're withholding food and maybe you're exercising or not, and you're going through a stressful day, the body is like, well, wait, what's going on? So we know that the hypothalamus comes into play, because when a woman wakes up with her cortisol awakening response, that peak is higher than a man's. And with that comes acylated ghrelin, which is the active form of our hunger hormone, and PYY, peptide YY, which is appetite suppressant. So it's a counter. If you don't have food, then with the rise in cortisol, it kind of stays elevated, which keeps that acylated ghrelin active. And the peptide YY can't make you not feel hungry. So the hypothalamus is going, wait, what's going on? So then we start having a cascade of responses that starts to downregulate things like your incidental movement. We see less incidental movement. We see more of the walling in the afternoon. We see more of a craving for simple carbohydrate in the afternoon, because your body, it feels like it's in such a fatigued state. And then in that smaller window of eating that women are holding a fast, they aren't necessarily getting all the micronutrients they have. But then we also see from population research, for those people who hold a fast later, they end up with no metabolic control that a fast is supposed to give them. So when we start looking at how should women eat, it's like, let's work with the circadian rhythm. We know that you want to eat within a half an hour or so as you wake up. It doesn't have to be a large meal, but just enough to bring blood sugar up and signal that, yes, there's some nutrition coming on. Then we look at having protein and fiber at every eating opportunity. So that's at every meal, every snack. We want to stop eating with dinner. Don't eat after dinner, so that you have a good 2 to 3 hours before bed. And then you have your overnight sleep where you're having all your reparation. So if we're thinking about fasting, if you don't eat at 7, or you stop eating at 7, and then you wake up at 7, and then you don't have breakfast till 7:30 or 8, you're looking at a 12 and a half, 13-hour fast, time restricted eating. So you're getting the benefit of having a break from eating as you are going into night, which is beneficial. It's how your body works. But then you're not interfering with key signals throughout the day that your body relies on to be able to overcome stress and be stress resilient, to have cognition and focus, and to be able to understand what an exercise stress is and recover from it. So I think that there's this whole disconnect of like, I need to fast and hold calories because I've heard about all this stuff, how fasting helps with autophagy and helps with parasympathetic and telomere length and metabolic control, but that's from male data. So when we start looking at the female data and looking at chronobiology, we see that the best way a woman can eat is according to eating during the day, fueling at hand, and then having that break overnight. So we're not phase shifting. We're not going to bed with a full stomach where we can't get into a deep sleep. And we are actually able to follow that rhythm, which it improves our oxidative capacities. It improves our anti-inflammatory capacities. And by the way, it improves our sleep.
How does everything you just shared correlate with a woman's age? Does this become more acute the older that you get, or do these principles apply across the board irrespective of age?
Well, the circadian rhythm doesn't change with age, but what does change is sleep and sleep architecture. So the biggest problem that a lot of women have when they hit their 40s onwards is sleep, and having a lot of difficulty sleeping. And we see, there's a change in serotonin and melatonin production, partly because of gut bug changes, but also we become more sympathetically driven. So if we're really trying to improve sleep, then we want to really pay attention to what we're doing in the day. Because if you're eating well in the day and front loading calories, then you aren't going to be sympathetically driven and unable to get into a parasympathetic response for good sleep. Why do we want good sleep? Because we can't have any kind of metabolic or body composition change if we have poor sleep. And that's the biggest fleeting factor, especially when women get into perimenopause with changes in body comp and the inability to sleep. And then they're fighting back and they're trying fad diets or they're trying to hold a fast, and it's interrupting sleep even more, which becomes this big cascade of events where it's like, just hold up. Let's look how the body works. Let's look at that circadian rhythm. Let's work on sleep. Because once we get sleep nailed down and become more stress resilient, your body can start making changes.
It seems like those principles would apply to men also.
You would think, right? But we see that phase shifting is more difficult in men because they are not as sensitive to calorie changes and nutrient density as women are. I pull a lot of the examples out of what we call low energy availability, which is really high in active women and men. And we see that the calorie kind of intake bare minimum for women before they start to have dysfunction is around 30 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass, but for men it's 15. So we're looking at the baseline level for nutrient needs. It's different. So men can hold a fast and they're not going to get dysregulation. They're not going to have necessary changes in their pulses because it's not as strong of a stimulus for change as it is for women. It becomes more of a protective factor from a biological standpoint. If there isn't a lot of nutrition around, women's bodies start to really conserve.
Right. So the translation is basically if men are undergoing some kind of fasting protocol, intermittent fasting or whatnot, they're able to lean out and still maintain or build lean muscle mass. Whereas women's bodies, the signal is conserve. And so they're going to retain that fat. So the fasting is at cross purposes with the aim.
Right. Granted, of course, there are outliers. Like if you have a really significantly obese woman, then fasting can be beneficial because we're trying to get control and we see that fasting can be more beneficial than severe calorie restriction. But when do we break the fast is the question, right? So if we're looking at a woman who is obese and trying to get control, it's not breaking the fast late. It's breaking the fast early and then having the fasting window or the eating window in the day and then stopping eating at like 4. So you have a longer overnight fast. It's not about working in the morning because even in women who aren't active, they still have this circadian disruption.
Yeah, that was my question. I mean, obviously, if you're obese, that's a setup for a cascade of all kinds of lifestyle ailments. And I can understand why a fasting protocol would be efficacious in that regard. But what about like how much of this is applicable to someone like yourself who is super fit, very active versus, the average 40 plus or 50 plus year old woman who, does enough here and there, but also is, working full time and is a mom and has all of these other kind of stressors or pressures in their life? Like, is there a use case where fasting might be beneficial from your perspective, or you're taking it off the board?
I'm taking the traditional idea of holding your fast till 11 or 12 off the board. And that is, I'm like, I look like I'm really super fit and everything, but I'm not. I'm the mom who's rushing around and I have a really hard time like maintaining mass. I don't have a lot of time to train. But no, across the board, it's like
sun's out, guns out.
I wish.
Stacy.
Yeah. No, I got harassed last weekend because I wore a jacket on stage and people were like, where are your arms?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was a thing. But no, if we're looking at like the traditional case that I have that will come see me and say, I really, really need help is a woman who is in her mid 40s, has 2 kids, super busy, having intermittent sleep issues, highly stressed, exercises when she can. She's trying to, eat clean, do all the things. And she's like, help. But then it's like she leans into, it's really easy not to eat first thing in the morning because I'm so busy. I have a training session with my friends or I go to the gym at 5 and I get home at 6 and then I get the kids up and get them out the door. And then I have meetings and emails. And then it's like 10 o'clock before I've had any food. the very first thing that I do is like, let's re-examine the morning. Yes, I'm not going to have you have a full meal before you go work out at 5 or 6 in the morning, but let's have something really small. We know that Abby Smith-Ryan, who's a researcher at UNC, has done research in this and shows that just 10 grams of protein before a strength training program significantly helps avoid phase shift and improves exercise adaptations. If you're going to do cardiovascular type work, like a circuit, or putting in some Metcon in there, adding 30 grams of carbohydrate to that does the same thing. So we just look, it's like, how do we support the body in the times of stress where it actually needs nutrition? Because then we're avoiding any kind of phase shift. And when women start to adopt that, and even if it is just the infamous protein coffee, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel better in my workout. I have more clarity in the day. I have energy. Then when the 3 o'clock slump comes, I'm not craving simple carbohydrates. I can actually reach for something that's good, so that when I get home, yeah, I'm stressed and I'm tired from the day, but I'm not at that tipping point where I just can't deal anymore. So it becomes really important for the normal, really highly stressed woman to acknowledge the fact that not eating is not good. It doesn't make you stress resilient. It actually exacerbates the condition.